wanted to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brandflex here, back with another Eternal Return video. For today's video, I want to do a replay analysis of a duo queue game that I played with a friend. This is about low plat MMRs, so not the highest tiers of gaming for NA, but hopefully still good enough to show you guys what to do when you're playing a character you're not super familiar with and role that you're not super familiar with either. I usually play like bruisers or people with a lot more damage, so while I am pretty familiar with tanks, I've played a few of them back in my heyday, mostly to troll around in norms. I'm not super familiar with it, so I'm mostly operating off of like these conceptual ideas that I have from a long time ago when I played other games. In terms of like, making space and zoning people and trying to like bait people into taking bad fights. These are all things that I'm trying to do in this game, and hopefully at the very worst you can try and glean something from that. So in this build I'm going to be spiking pretty fast at forests. This time around I'm going to be trying to go for these wolves in the middle and then going for the hotel wolves in the top right. I'll probably speed along the farming process after all the route is done because it's just going to be more interesting that way. I do need these chickens for their leather, so I grabbed them, and I think I do walk back to the campfire at least to make the breakfast toast prep material because I do want that meat from the wolves at some point to make sure I have some actual food. So this game is pretty slow. Again, I'll be speeding up a lot of the farming aspects, but I think it's a pretty good showcase of how to best navigate throughout the game when you're not necessarily super far ahead, but when you're like decently ahead and you want to just close it out. Again, Magnus is a character that I'm pretty unfamiliar with, so I'll probably be using some pretty underhanded tactics to get an advantage, and obviously it helps that I'm doing with a friend who is the Ava, and our Razi was pretty good as well. So these wolves give me some items. I do grab a few items just to do some mastery cheesing. If you guys don't know what mastery cheesing is, it's basically when you craft extra items after your route to try and get some more experience. Nimble Neuron has nerfed this concept quite a bit since its heyday, but since it still exists, I'm gonna try and do it anyways because I did get some pretty good materials for it. And by pretty good, I mean just the electronics part. I don't think I ended up doing anything with the feather duster at any point, so there's no inventory taking up space. So I do see these wolves here. I do see a Kathy pop up. I'm actually pretty lucky these wolves are available, but I'm aware that because those wolves are up, someone might be here. So I go for a brief tussle with this Kathy. I understand she's looking for a suture, so I try and navigate around that suture placement. But I'm also very keenly aware that they might get help at some point, and there's an Estelle. So I go ahead and bike out of there. It's not the worst thing to die at this point, but I just want to make sure that I stay alive in case my team wants to do something. So I crash the bike into where I hope chickens are. Doesn't quite hit, but I still get the chickens. And my team ends up teleporting to me, and we end up fighting the AR Aya that was on their team. So here I'm trying to make sure that I get as much space as possible for my Ava. That's the reason why I started running at the Kathy, so that if the Kathy did jump on my Ava, I could at least, walk around and stun her afterwards. But despite all that, we do end up disengaging. The Kathy does end up jumping my Ava again, but she is cunning and the Kathy is aware that we are behind her, so. A bit of a slow start again. The Kathy is trying to create out a rest in that area, so we do end up chasing her down. You could call it a waste of time. I'm honestly kind of split on the opinion because you can see that it's 1 minute until day 2, which is when the objectives spawn, and because we chase this Kathy around, we don't quite get the objective. But I think at this point we were kind of out of position anyways. We didn't get lucky with the spawns when it came to school or archery range for the meteor, so it's just kind of something we have to take at this point. Like, we'll get our free mastery, we'll get our free loot, and there still is almost enough time to walk, but not quite enough to the point where we can reliably get it, which will end up mattering a lot in a bit. So yeah, I see the meteor spawning, I look around, I think I ping over there, but the teammates can see me running over, so I don't need a spam ping. I look around for the farm, but obviously it's pretty late at this point. These wolves are freshly dead, so I'm very hyper aware that there's going to be someone around here, and my teammates do end up probably teleporting me just to get some extra distance because it's much faster to TP at some point than walk. So we see the pings. This is actually a really smart play by the other team. They know the meteor's spawning, so what ends up happening is that the Estelle ends up kind of running at us and zoning us from the meteor. So the Estelle is pretty good at, cheesing out escapes. I think she makes a mistake here of R'ing herself instead of a teammate to get out, but because she sacrificed her life, her team got the meteor very easily, and even though once again we get a kill, that lets us order from a kiosk just slightly faster, we lose the meteor, which is essentially 200 credits. So they end up walking away. I think the first speed up I have is about here. So yeah, I'm just gonna be farming for here. There's not really much to talk about at this point because, you know, we're just farming again. We order from the kiosk because we got some early kills, which accelerates our credit game just by a little bit. And since I haven't really properly made this build, this is actually a build I stole, and then I just like forgot to add in the upgrade items in there. I'm trying to make sure that I understand what items I'm trying to put in, so I end up just slotting them all in. And ideally, your build would have these done for you already, so you don't have to waste that time. We get pretty lucky here. We get a battle zone right where we're spawning. I don't really know the nuances of battle zones yet, so I don't know if I'm choosing a bad one or a good one. And once again, you can see me just like grabbing random items in attempts at mastery cheese. I know there's glue in this zone, so I'm looking for the glue to make tachyons, which gives me a lot of movement mastery. And then I'll be looking for like a chain to make Bucephalus, which is again a lot of movement mastery. You'll see my XP bar jump pretty high at some point. I don't know if this gives me level 11. I don't think it does, but if I got level 11 from that craft, it'd be basically right on time for the battle zone to start. And having level 11 at battle zone is really important because usually if you're level 11 at battle zone, that means you killed a lot of people. We've killed a decent amount, but we haven't killed that many, and I'm so close to it. So we end up getting this battle zone for free because once again, we've been roaming around and making a lot of pings on the map, which I think ends up dissuading a lot of people from approaching. And you do see that because of my item crafting spam efforts, I do hit level 11 right when the battle zone would have started, which is slightly out leveling my Ava, which has done a lot of damage, and my Razi, who has been snowballing a little bit, is the only person who matches me here. So at this point, again, we're trying to continue farming. We get pretty lucky with the wolves, which is why it's really important to know when wolves respawn. And we're going to run through temple and probably just fight some more stuff. We don't have time to get to... I think we actually do teleport to the alpha because we hit tab and we see that the alpha is alive, which usually means that the alpha is either completely free or there's a third party to be had. Obviously there's a bit of risk because there's a small chance that your teammate might teleport into the fighting teams and get sandwiched and killed immediately, but we get a pretty good spawn. Obviously I should have gone first, but I didn't realize the intention until after the spawn happened. We do see an IREM ability pop up and the kill happen, so we end up running at this Debbie Marlene. She does get out and we don't want to chase her because that's a lot of red to spend for a kill on a character that is very, very mobile. So we do see this Echion. There is a choice to be made there, whether we go for the full squad wipe or the Echion. I think since the Razi goes down, we decide to go for the Echion kill, which ends up being pretty good because it's a squad down. Now, I think objectively it might have been better to chase the other squad just because one kill versus potentially 3 is a lot less RP for us, but it's never wrong to go for the safer option. I just think in my head that likes to fight a lot, I would have preferred to go for the squad, even though again, probably a much worse idea. These bears end up not giving us too much, which isn't a big deal, just because again, we already high rolled once from Wolf, we're already ahead in a rare material for no reason, and because I managed to save so many credits, I get a Guardian suit, which in retrospect was a mistake, because I think you're supposed to get Quake level 3, which I ended up realizing like moments after I order. But Guardian suit is a pretty massive upgrade over Crusader's armor. You lose 2 defense in exchange for a lot more HP and a lot of percentage reduction stats. So the reason why percentage reduction stats are very useful is because they add on to your defense and they can't be reduced. So even if someone has a lot of armor pen, even if someone has very high stats, they're getting reduced by a lot by the percentage reduction. So the Razi ends up giving me the tree because I can make something with it. Pretty nice. I'm essentially full build here. This auto arms in my inventory is kind of griefing me with the items I hold because I end up trying to go for traps later on, which are a much better use of my inventory than this like bandage I end up holding, so you'll see me drop that after a while. We are pretty lucky with the bears. The reason why I liked the warehouse call a lot from the Razi is because it does put us in a pretty good zone for farm. Obviously warehouse has bears and then uptown has bears, and then we can just walk around and even have a good hyperloop spot, and also you can even order if you want to. So we go to stream because once again we see the tree is available, and again that's either meaning that the thing is free or third-party potential. Ends up being free, so the Ava gets a pretty nice boon, and I go for the meteor because if the tree has been up and the meteor has been up, odds are pretty high, and since I'm Magnus, I'm probably the safest person to get that meteor. I think I end up giving the meteor to the Ava because they want a force core, and actually do I think maybe they ordered force core or something. I just give it to somebody because I really don't need it. Like, once again, my build is essentially complete. There's not many tank items that either don't stack, like there is like something's pauldron, like the arm piece that has the exact same effect as the dwarf's helmet. You could argue which one is better, but since those are the only real 2 tank items, I don't want to build them because Burnished Aegis gives a ton of armor and a ton of HP. Hammer of Dagda gives me a lot of defense and some health regen. And then Hiking Boots is really the only form of HP you get in this game through boots, so I just want to keep all these items because they make me very bulky, very oddly. So you see here is when I start having inventory issues because I'm trying to craft a bunch of these double G preps. If you guys don't know, Pond and Stream are some of the best zones to get these prepped up because you get 3 out of the 4 materials required for it. So at the end of the game, when we're setting up for the final zone, all you need to call in are going to be piano wires to combine with the hammers to make barbed wire, or whatever it's called, and then that creates a DG. So a very important thing to be aware of if you're walking through these zones later in the game, because this saves you a lot of credits. If you look at my inventory alone, I have essentially generated for free like 300 credits through pure collection, and that can be the difference between you getting a good DG off or you just getting them cleared by wards and everything else. So we end up running to the kiosk. Once again, just imagine a reality where I didn't have these hammers and bamboo traps prepped. All my credits right now would have gone to that instead of this tag skill 3, which I should have gotten much earlier, but I have now. The reason why Quick is pretty useful is just because it procs so often with Magnus and its W does allow you to move freely. But there's a fight happening, which is why the replay slowed back down. So I hit the console, we see a fight going on. This is a pretty melee team, so I'm mostly trying to make sure the Irem is hitting me, and our Razi is trying to agree to craft, which is why she's pinging us away. She does barely manage to get the craft off, which is very nice. And once again, I'm trying to be the person that gets hit the most, and the Irem does hit me a lot. The Ava gets in a really good position, and I end up taking a lot of the skill shots for free. So what I end up doing here is I ult to get the healing off because I have healing drone. The Luke has a pretty good totem, but once again, we've split their team apart, and we've isolated the Luke. And then we isolated Dibby and Marlene to make sure they all go down. So what was really important that I did that fight again was I made sure I stood in front and I caught the skill shots with my face instead of having the Razi or the Ava cast skill shots, because if they got caught, Luke's base damage and power spikes or burst potential are really high. And since I have like 147 armor and I get even more for hitting people, relatively speaking, that damage is a lot lower on me. And since my teammates are close to me, that means if the Luke does decide to take the Q, instead of doing something useful, he actually makes himself very vulnerable because he's put himself in a melee position against 2 ranged characters that absolutely crap out damage. So, very good positioning by me in that fight. That lets us get some pretty good Wick control. We get to Wick a little bit late. If there's a team here, there's a small potential that we don't get this secure very quickly. But since there's no one here, I think they're all fighting somewhere else. We do get Wick pretty easily. I don't have my double Ds prepped yet. I think there's an argument to be made where I should have called in a few piano wires to make sure that this area is safe. But I don't think about it in time, so we just run over and get it. It also helps that we see no pings, and also helps that we have full vision control. Razi and Ava do a ton of damage, which is why I'm very comfortable with using Wick, or just clearing Wick very quickly. Like, you can just see Wick melt under this damage pressure, and this is like a 7-second Wick clear, which is absurdly fast. We get everything we need. I drop the items for my teammates, and I don't really know if they need them. I think we're a bit confused because like the Razi's like trying to do stuff. And then, yeah. So once again, I'm like getting kind of grieved by my inventory. Like, I really don't need this Tree of Life. I think I am making a Zen Vitality with it. And I do drop the VF for the Razi, who gets a bigger upgrade. Even though she's already Exodia, she can still upgrade with the VF items because VF items have a very good power spike comparatively to the Meteor and Tree items. So no shame in giving it to her. Again, these purple items I have on are probably the best tank items in the game. There's not really a good option for tank items to the VF blood sample, like maybe Prominence, but I don't really care about having CDR. So when the day turns here, I probably should spell this part up too. When the day turns, you're gonna see there's like a third party potential here, and since we're the really strong Wick team, people are going to try avoiding it, finding us at all costs possible. Sorry for the stutter there. Obviously, we're all Exodia, but so are most people at this point, which means that even though we are pretty scary, it still means that we can still lose a fight. So we see the kiosk being used. We take the console. I ping over here to make sure they know that there's stuff happening over there. And then when we see the day turn, we see just a huge mess. So I ping just to make sure everyone knows that's happening. The Razi acknowledges it, which is very useful and helpful. I end up having to walk up with the Razi because, once again, we do not want someone being picked off for free. I should have walked down. I would have rather us all walk down the main corridor, but she thinks walking up here is fine. And if you know anything about team games, choosing a play with a team is always better than choosing a play by yourself. So you get a very good pick. We take down one for free. The Cappy ends up running away along with the Aya. And so, since we know they ran through that way, we want to make sure that we keep this red zone occupied. So I see this Estelle, I can't catch up. I see this Luke, I want to make sure that he stays out as much as possible. So that's why I end up zoning here. I can see my teammates have been doing something else, so that's why I back off a little bit. My Razi is low, so I'm just stalling for the Razi, and so is my Ava. So, kind of annoying that we can't get any kill confirms there, but it is pretty nice that we do end up getting some free items, more upgrades for my teammates. And yeah, I think the end of the game is finally coming up. I do end up choosing to go to Myth Boots, which I think might have been a mistake, but I decided to just build them anyways because, you know, gold is good and they're shiny. I get a bunch of defense and some attack speed, which are pretty good stats, but not the best stats, and I lose 120 HP and some HP regen, which are arguably just as valuable. I do move a little bit faster though, which will help me catch up to my teammates when they do stuff. So the Estelle pops up, we don't really care about it because we're trying to get to the zone as soon as possible. Odds are likely they're escaping, which is what they end up doing. I teleport first to make sure the tank goes in first, and we end up getting a pretty good free kill for us because somebody is over here. The Leon is all alone, we chase them down. Thankfully, there is no other team above us, even though there very well could be. So we get a free kill, no need to really rush a reset, and I think it's just going to be us and one other team because the third team escapes. So you can see here, once again, it's very important that I prep these double Gs earlier, because now, assuming that the other team was full, we can have a very unfair fight by having these double Gs being spammed across the map. The idea of a fair fight is nice in theory, but in the end, when you're looking to get ranked points, you should really try and play it as unfair as possible. This Irem and Luke are going to be a duo. They lost their WMR at some point, but you can see that they're also building BGs, just going to show how strong these are for the late game. You can see my teammates backing me up as well with them in case I need to run away, but fortunately, since it is a 3v2, that's it. I know this video was less exciting than the last one was, but hopefully it gives a pretty good insight into how you should approach playing a tank and how you should focus on being like the middleman in these fights. If it was useful, please let me know. I'm happy to make other videos, but it seemed like there was a lot of interest in more of these. Just let me know what you want and what you need. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye bye.